Welcome back to Yoga with Leona, your site for everything about yoga and breast cancer recovery. So today's video is going to be a short tutorial about how to get into a headstand. So you may be thinking, I'm not ready to get into a headstand, and a lot of people maybe will never get into a headstand, and that's totally fine. You know, as I always say, yoga is not about hitting your body into weird positions, but if headstand is something that you're interested in or something that you'd like to start working on, I want to teach you how to get into it properly and safely, teach you how to do the strengthening exercises so that when you eventually do start getting ready to get into headstand, you'll be ready. So before we start, a few important things about headstand. So the first most important thing to know about headstand is when you get your body upside down, the weight should be very little weight into your head, which would then translate through to your neck. So the way I'm going to teach you to get into headstand, the majority of the weight is actually going to be propped into your shoulders, through your elbows and forearms into the floor. So we like to say like about 90% of the weight or so is actually going to be in your arms, and that leaves only about 10% of the weight on the top of your head, which then translates down through your neck and into your spine. So the most important thing is to learn how to build that strength through your arms and shoulders such that your arms and shoulders can hold all that weight of your body upside down so that your neck and your head are protected. All right, so first thing, most of the weight is through your arms and shoulders, very little weight actually translating through the top of your head. Second thing, which is an add-on to that, is if you have severe osteoporosis or you've had a significant neck injury in the past, you might not ever want to put any weight into the top of your head. Now, you can still work on the strengthening exercises that we're going to do today, the preparatory exercises before getting into headstand, and I'll show you that, how you do that without ever even putting your head onto the floor. So, precaution for osteoporosis or prior significant neck injury. And then the third thing is that headstanding and any inversion really is also a lot of core strength. So as you're probably realizing if you've started practicing with us, so much of yoga is core strength. So in order to be able to hold your body upside down, your core has to be nice and strong, and you have to kind of learn how to engage your core muscles. So you know, before you really start working into getting upside down and getting into headstand, really focus on strengthening your shoulders and strengthening your core. So we've got tutorials on those as well, and then of course all of our regular asana practices are going to be working on those things. All right, and then of course I just want to reiterate, totally not a big deal if you don't want to ever try to get into headstand. This isn't something that you have to do to do yoga. It's just something that some people think is fun and a challenge. So if you're up for it, I'll go ahead and teach you how to do it. All right, so a couple of really important alignment things. So the safest way to put any kind of weight into your neck is to have the neck in a nice straight line. So once we do start putting any weight into our neck, we never want to turn our head side to side. So once your head is on the floor, you never turn your head side to side. That's how you can end up with a neck injury. The other thing is to learn what part of your head is supposed to be on the floor. So a lot of people, you know, are sort of confused about how that alignment looks. So you have to discover what we call the crown of your head. So the crown of your head is the part of the head that's going to be on the floor. And if you're not sure where that is, it's sort of the area where there was a fontanelle when you were a baby, or that soft spot where the bones sort of grow together as you grow out of infancy. And so sometimes you can feel just a flat spot at the top of your head. But if it's not really obvious to you, you can take your thumb and your long finger. You place the thumb right in between your eyebrows and then stretch the long finger as far as it'll go to the top of your head, and around about there is going to be the crown of your head. So when you put your head on the floor, you want that part of your head touching the floor. You don't want your forehead or like your front hairline touching the floor, because imagine if the forehead is on the floor, your neck is going to have to be kinked back like this to get up into a line, and you can see how that's not going to be good for your neck. Also, if you have the back part or like the back corner of your head on the floor, you can see that your head would have to tilt far forward to get up into alignment. So, you know, those are things that are going to put undue stress on the neck. So learning to find the crown of your head so that when you get upside down, your neck will be perfectly straight line. That'll be the safest thing for your neck. All right, so first thing, discover the crown of your head. Thumb in between your eyebrows, long finger reaches as far up as it will reach, and round about there is the crown of your head. All right, now let's learn about the strength through the arms and shoulders. So another important alignment thing for headstand is to learn how to place your arms and shoulders into the floor and how to keep them there. So we're going to roll over onto our feet, or onto our knees, I'm sorry. And then the first thing we do is we measure the distance between our elbows. And this is to get your elbows shoulder width distance apart. So you place one hand around each elbow, and then this is the distance you want to keep your elbows the whole time they're on the floor. So you're going to keep that distance. You're going to bring those elbows to the floor. And then you're going to release the hands and interlace your fingers. Now, the point of doing that with the elbows is so that you know your elbows are shoulder width distance apart. Once you start trying to turn upside down, you don't want the elbows to fall apart like this, because that's going to put more weight into your head. So keeping elbows shoulder width distance apart is going to protect you and allow you to translate all that strength through your shoulders to hold your body weight with the strength of your shoulders. So elbows shoulder width distance apart, hands release, fingers interlace. Now you want to be pushing your entire forearm all the way through your wrist and into your hands into the floor. So you don't want to be kinking up your hands or adding a lot of weirdness there. You'll be the most solid if you have all of your forearm into your wrist and into your hands flat on the floor. So in order to do that without kinking your fingers, when we interlace our fingers, I usually bring that bottom pinky behind the other one so that they're not sort of smashing one another. So one pinky behind the other so that those arms and hands can be flat at the floor. All right? So measure our elbows, release our hands, interlace our fingers, pinkies behind one another. Now, before we ever put our head on the floor, so this is fine for everyone with osteoporosis, we can just start working that strength through the shoulders. So push through your shoulders, feel strong, engaged shoulders. Imagine almost the sensation like you're in a plank. So you know how when we're in a plank or even just here in cat-cow, we don't want to be sinking down into our shoulders. So we're pushing through the shoulders. Shoulder blades are sort of spreading across our back. So it's the same idea when your elbows are on the floor. You don't want to collapse into your shoulders. This is not strong. When you push in through your shoulders, then you've got all of those muscles engaged and tons of strength through your arms and shoulders. All right? So elbows back to the floor, interlace those fingers. Now push into your shoulders. So you're pushing weight all the way through those forearms and elbows into the floor. And then if you're ready, you can tuck your toes and come up to downward facing dog style legs. So before the head ever reaches the floor, we're working here strength through our shoulders and arms. So if that feels okay to you, you can walk your toes a little closer and you can see more and more weight is coming up into those shoulders and arms. So you can work just right here for a while. So take a few sets of this, maybe 5 breaths here, and you're feeling just strength through those shoulders. You can hold yourself here all day long. Good, and then take a break, stop and rest. I like to stretch my shoulders back the other direction, give a little release to those muscles that are working hard to get you up there. All right, and then let's take another set. So again, measure your elbows. Elbows on the floor, they never separate. Release those hands, interlace the fingers, pinky fingers behind one another. Wrists push into the floor, shoulders engage. Push your hips up to the sky and then walk the toes as far forward as you can. So feel all that strength through your shoulders, just holding here to build the strength before you ever even put your head on the floor. So again, 5 breaths. Feel how strong you are. Good. And then rest. All right, now once you've been doing that for a little while and you're feeling nice and strong, you feel like, okay, I can hold that strength, no problem. Maybe you also have been doing some planks for a while. or you've been doing downward facing dog for a while and you're feeling pretty good about the strength through your shoulders and upper arms. So when you're feeling pretty good about that, and if your bones are okay, then we can start trying to put a little weight into our head. So let's come back, same position. Measure your elbows, place them on the floor, release the hands, interlace the fingers. Now, we're gonna place the crown of our head on the floor such that our hands sort of cradle the back of our head. So again, not your forehead on the floor, not the back side of your head on the floor, but the crown of the head right on the floor. Hands cradle the back of your head, and then again, push in through your elbows so that you can feel there's really very little weight on the top of your head. A little bit, but not a lot. And then again, downward facing dog legs. So you start to walk the feet up. And again, you feel yourself here, you feel the strength through your shoulders holding all of that weight. You're trying eventually to get the hips above your shoulders. But if you've got tight hamstrings, you might not be able to get quite that far. So again, just feel how strong your shoulders are to hold you there. And then take a little rest. After we do a headstand, we often like to release our neck a little bit. So you can rest here with 2 fists under your forehead. Just release that neck a little bit. All right, good. Now, next step, once you're feeling pretty strong there, you feel kind of solid through your shoulders, you can start trying to bring the legs up off the ground. So I'm going to show you a couple ways to do it. When you're very first starting, it's probably smart to have a wall behind you, just so that you don't have that fear of falling over or rolling over. Eventually, it's a good idea to learn how to fall safely, and I'll do that in another tutorial video. But at first, when you're first starting, good to just have a wall behind you so you're not worried about it. All right, so again, measure your elbows, release those hands, pinkies behind one another, crown of the head to the floor, hands cradle the back of your head, downward facing dog legs, walk the hips up. Now, you can just bring one leg up at a time and just see how that feels. So one leg up at a time, and then eventually both come up into a tuck. So this is the first step. And then if you're ready, you can extend your legs all the way up. Now, it's hard sometimes to tell if you're in a straight line or not. The answer to that usually is stretch your feet toward the sky. You don't want to do a big banana back situation like this. So you want to pull your core in. This is where that core strengthening thing comes in. So pull your core in, stretch your feet to the sky, all the while pushing through your elbows and shoulders, right? So very little weight on the top of your head, so you're nice and stable. Now you can just come down one leg at a time. And again, rest your neck in between all of these sets of headstand. Now, to get the legs, remember I mentioned, in order to get your hips up above your shoulders like that, it takes some hamstring flexibility. So if that's an issue for you, it may be hard for you to just walk one foot up at a time into a tuck position like that, because your hamstrings are so tight, it's hard to get up there. So let me show you the other option, and that's sort of kicking up, and this is where a wall really comes in handy. So get yourself fairly close to the wall, and again, measure those elbows, release the hands, pinky finger behind the other, crown of head to the floor, cradle the back of your head, downward facing dog legs. So if you can't walk all the way up here so that it's easy to come up into a tuck, then the next option is to just kick up. So you want to slowly use your bottom leg like a little spring, and you slowly kick one leg up at a time until you come to your wall. So you can see there, you can catch yourself at the wall, and then use that to balance you while you come up. And then you can take 1 foot at a time off the wall and try to find that straight line. Core pulls in. If that's okay, then you take both feet up. But you can try both feet. You can even just, use the wall if you're not quite ready to be straight up and down yet. It's no problem. And then you can slowly walk yourself down. Again, rest your neck for a moment after each time you take a headstand. All right, now I'm going to show you the next option, once you start building that strength and you're feeling okay upside down, I'll show you how to float the legs up to just another way to get into it. All right? So same idea, measure your elbows, release the hands, pinky fingers behind one another, crown of the head to the floor, downward facing dog legs. Now, in order to float up, again, you have to walk your hips pretty far above your shoulders. And then you push the hips up as you engage your core and just roll the legs all the way up to the top. Again, this requires a lot of hamstring flexibility, so don't be frustrated if it's hard to do at first. If you're wanting to work on this, then work on the first option coming up, which was to come up with one leg at a time into a tuck position. You can come down the same way. So you see how you have to stick your butt back a little bit to hold the balance? Stick your butt back a little bit as you float your legs slowly down. Again, release your neck. All right. Very nice. I'm going to show you one more option for headstand. That's called a tripod headstand, and that's a little different formation with the arms. So this one has a little bit less support for your neck. So I always recommend learning this first option that we did first, because it's got such a solid base of support with your arms and your shoulders. But once you start doing that one and you feel really comfortable with it and you feel like you're nice and solid, then you can start working on tripod headstand, and it's just a different, kind of a fun, different option. So for tripod headstand, instead of your elbows being on the floor, your hands are going to be on the floor. And then your head is going to come in front of the hands a little ways. And again, you've got to find that crown of the head here. And you can see how, because my elbows are not on the floor, this one's got more weight into the head. The hands need to be behind your head a little ways, so if they're up here, you won't have a good base of balance. So they're behind the head a ways, elbows point toward the sky, and when you're ready to roll up, and you can bring one knee to each elbow first, as a first way to practice this, and then you can come up from there. Now again, you can see how there's more weight into my head here. So you want to be really good and strong with the first option before you try into this tripod headstand. But once you're feeling strong and steady, it's another fun way to practice. All right? And again, release that neck. Always taking care of our neck in yoga. So the vertebrae in the neck are very delicate little skinny bones. So remember, like I said, never turning your head side to side once you've got weight in the top of your head. And just like everything in yoga, going into it nice and slow, being cautious, listening to your body, making sure you build that strength to hold you there safely first. All right, guys, have fun with working into headstand. Please send me any messages if you're having trouble or you want some more pointers or tips. If you have specific challenges, I am more than happy to help. All right? Very nice to have you today. Thank you for giving yourself this beautiful gift of yoga. Namaste.